Zendaya is credited as Athena in a $250 million movie where Athena never shows up. Not once. The goddess walking Odysseus home is a Trojan priestess he watched get beheaded. He knows that. He talks to her anyways. Nolan shot this film entirely on IMAX cameras. First ever movie to do that, by the way. 2 million feet of film, 91 shooting days, and one extremely tired Matt Damon. Then he used all of it to quietly gut the most famous story in the Western culture. So a fan reacts. I've read the poem, I've seen the movie twice now, and I need to talk about the crew. Not Odysseus, the crew. Because the meanest change in this film isn't Athena, and it isn't the ending, and I'm saving it for the last minute. Alright, let's start with what's missing. In Homer, the gods are staff. Zeus approves things. Hermes shows up with a magic herb like a guy delivering a package. Athena strolls around Ithaca, changing people's faces by hand. Nolan fires all of them. Nobody divine appears on screen and does one thing. Poseidon's curse is weather and guilt. Zeus's law isn't to rule from the sky. It's a handshake between humans that says if a stranger knocks, you feed him and you don't kill him. That's the whole religion. Be normal to guests, basically. Also keep an eye on the darn flower. Nobody online is talking about the flower, and it's the reason half of this movie isn't real. And that one move turns the most famous trick in history into the worst thing anybody has ever done. The horse was a gift. Troy carried it inside their own walls because that is what you do with a gift. Odysseus had filled it with men. In the movie, he says it out loud. One man's idea, one man's trick to break Zeus's law forever. You were taught that in school as the clever part. Nolan shoots it as a crime scene. And before somebody comments that Nolan invented the guilt, he didn't. Homer's Odysseus cries every single time a bard sings about Troy. Homer got there first. Wait, back up. I skipped the 50-foot puppet. Polyphemus is a physical object on that set, 60 feet tall for the wide shots, then Bill Irwin in prosthetics for the close-ups where he's eating somebody. For Charybdis, they drove jet skis in circles until the ocean made a real whirlpool. For Scylla, they ripped stunt performers off the deck on cables. Nolan made a movie about the sea on the sea with cameras that weigh more than a child and scream so loud they wreck the audio, cause obviously, that's just Nolan being Nolan. Okay, the changes. There are about 16 big ones and I'm not doing all 16 because some are just housekeeping. He cuts King Nestor, he cuts Phaeacians, the whole island where Homer's hero sits at a dinner party and narrates his own greatest hits. He cuts the bag of winds, which hurts because that's the one where the crew opens a mystery bag of pure noiseness and gets blown all the way back to the start. Also gone, nobody. In the poem, Odysseus tells the Cyclops his name is Nobody. So when the neighbors ask who hurt him, he screams, "Nobody!" and they all go home. Greatest dad joke in literature. And it's cut. None of these are the changes people are actually mad about. The ones people are mad about are where a character walks on screen and turns out to be somebody else entirely. Circe doesn't turn men into pigs anymore. Samantha Morton's version says she never transformed anyone. She just shows you what's already in there. These men spend 10 years sacking a city. She isn't casting a spell, she's holding up a mirror, which is worse, I think. Helen doesn't get a soft landing either. Homer parks her in a nice house in Sparta with a husband who's basically moved on. Nolan gives her a scar on her face, put there by Menelaus, and a marriage Nolan himself described as the most acidic, awful marriage ever. His line about the scar? The face that launched 1,000 ships, or maybe just 500. That is a joke with a body count inside it. One more rewrite, and this one is petty, which is exactly why I love it. Antinous, that's the guy played by Pattinson, the loudest guy eating Odysseus' food, somebody get these beggars out of here or whatever, that guy. Gets a backstory Homer never bothered to give him. He paid another man to go to Troy in his place. He's a draft dodger, so the guy sleeping in the hero's house is the guy who bought his way out of the war that cost the hero 20 years. Here's a number. In Homer, the lotus is 20 lines long. Just 20, and Nolan built half a movie out of it. This is the change that made the actual classics professor sit up. Dr. Benjamin Cartledge at the University of Liverpool wrote it up. In the poem, the lotus is a fruit, some sailors eat it, and they forget home. Odysseus drags them back to the ship, and we move on inside a minute. In Nolan's version, the lotus is a flower, and Calypso is feeding it to him for 7 years to keep him from remembering Troy. So the entire first half of this film, the Cyclops, the Sirens, the underworld, is a story told by a man on the drug to the woman handing him the drug. It's the least reliable narration since your friend explained why he got fired, and that unlocks the theory I like most. You are not watching what happened, you're watching his edit, which sounds like a fanfiction until you remember Homer's Odysseus lies about who he is to almost every stranger he meets. Homer got there first, again. Quick question, did you clog the dog? Argos, Odysseus's dog. In Homer, he gets 6 lines, and they're the saddest 6 lines in the whole poem. 20 years old, lying on a manure pile, too weak to stand, he hears his owner's voice, wags his tail once, and dies. Nolan expands it. Now Telemachus uses the dog as evidence. The dog knows this beggar, therefore the beggar is dad. The dog is running a paternity test in the Bronze Age. I'm bringing him back, just so you're braced. 3 theories, one of them is completely wrong, and I'll tell you which. And I want to be careful here because half of the internet is stating these like they're confirmed and they're not. Theory 1, Athena is Cassandra. The film says she's a priestess killed at Troy. Cassandra was a priestess killed after Troy. Nolan cut Cassandra from the movie completely. People have connected those dots very hard. Nolan hasn't confirmed a thing, and he won't. His line is that he learned on Memento, it's unfair to define the experience for the audience. Translation, he will never tell you, so stop asking. Theory 2, nothing supernatural happened at all. It's just a concussed man in a war. Clean theory, I think it's wrong, mostly because the 60-foot puppet is right there on the screen eating a guy. Theory 3 is real because Nolan filmed it out loud, and that's where the story ends, except it doesn't. Odysseus gets home, he kills the suitors, he gets Penelope back, Homer wraps up near there with a truce and reunion with his dad. Nolan's Odysseus wins and then leaves forever. He sails west to bury his men and he is not coming back, and he knows it. Penelope goes with him, Telemachus takes the throne, 20 years of trying to get home achieved and then thrown away on purpose, because obviously. And on the way out, he tells Penelope what he thinks happened to the men who never made it back. They became the sea people. Real history for a second. Around the 12th century BCE, the Mediterranean fell apart. The Hittite Empire collapsed and its written records just stopped. The city of Ugarit burned and was never rebuilt, and the last king's final message was found still sitting in a kiln, unsent. It says the enemy ships are already here. They have set fire to my towns. Egypt beat them off at the Nile Delta and carved the win into a temple wall. Historians still argue about who those raiders actually were. Nolan's answer is us, the winners, the crew. Homer wrote a story about a man getting home. Nolan filmed a story about a war that turned its own survivors into the thing that ended the world, and then sent them sailing off to spread it. Odysseus' own words, the breaking of Zeus's law, spreading like plague. That's the crew. Told you, I'd get there. Here's why it lands on you in a chair in 2026. You already knew the story, you knew the horse was clever, you knew the hero wins. Nolan barely touched the plot. He changed who you're allowed to be proud of. The trick you were taught to admire in 7th grade gets filmed as the moment the light go out on an entire civilization. 2 numbers before I let you go. People showed up anyway. Best reviews of Nolan's career, $264 million worldwide on opening weekend. His biggest ever. Past The Dark Knight Rises for the R-rated 3-hour movie about guilt. Everyone came for the horse and got handed the bill. Penelope's last note isn't despair though. Her line is that civilization will rise again. Nolan said he wanted the ended balance between pessimism and optimism, and that's the balance. Everything burns, somebody rebuilds it, and eventually somebody writes a poem about it. That poem is the reason you know any of this. So yeah, Afan reacted for about 10 minutes or so to a 3,000-year-old story about a guy who couldn't find his own house. Drop a like if the horse hit different this time. Tell me in the comments what change you actually hate hated, because there is one in here everybody hates, and I don't think it's the one Nolan expected. Subscribe, because next up is the House of the Dragon episode I've been avoiding out of fear. Until then, have a nice